you earn your pay?
How'd you earn your pay?
I will reply with a whole lot of anger.
I will reply with a whole lot of anger.
Earn my pay as an airborne ranger.
Earn my pay as an airborne ranger.
Welcome guys, I'm Specialist O'Brien and this is the Gruntwork channel, and this is going to be my first video on this channel, and it's going to be a video version of the basic marksmanship course that I've created for the 1st Ranger Battalion. Without further ado, let's get started. This weapon you see here is the M24 sniper weapon system, and it's a bolt-action sniper rifle that is standard issue to U.S. Army snipers. It fires a 7.62 by 51mm or 308 NATO, whichever you want to call it. It is a breech-load weapon, has an internal box magazine with a capacity of 5 rounds. Since Arma 2's inception, there's been a lot of improvements through the ACE mod and through the ACE development team. One of these improvements has been the implementation of a windage system and a more advanced drop system, a more accurate drop system, I should say. And one of the things that they included was a range chart, which can be brought up by the default buttons, which I believe is Shift V, which is Shift Victor. And here you can see the ranges at intervals of 100 meters, and I should mention this right now, the Arma and Arma ACE mod uses the metric system, which I believe is a lot more user-friendly than the standard system, the American system, because the metric system is a base 10. All the units they use fit into each other with a base number of 10. For example, there are 1,000 millimeters in a meter, 100 centimeters in a meter, there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, etc., etc. Whereas the standard system uses inches, feet, and yards, where there are 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard, and 5,280 feet in a mile, and it just doesn't flow very well. And it just makes it that much more difficult to make those calculations at long range. So anyway, back to ACE. This here elevation uses minutes of angle. These are not mils. And the windage system here, I will distinguish that or explain that later on in this video. But as for now, let's move back to the rifle. Sorry, that was the ACRE system. I just accidentally tapped the transmit button. Anyway, this rifle, M24 by default, let me bring up the range table one more time. You can see elevation 0 at 300 meters. That means the default zeroing range, or cold bore range, is 300 meters. You can adjust the zeroing by adjusting up using the arrow keys. You see minutes of angle in the upper left-hand corner. I have 4 minutes of angle upwards, and then 4 minutes of angle downwards. And the elevation here one more time, if I adjust 6 minutes of angle downwards, for example, I will adjust the zeroing of my rifle to 100 meters, whereas if I adjusted up 4 minutes of angle, it will zero my rifle for 400 meters. Zeroing means that if I aimed at my target, and my target was at 400 meters, and I had my crosshair right on him, the bullet will hit right on the crosshairs. So, how many of you have taken trigonometry in high school or had something to that effect? Because you may not have liked it, or you may have liked it, but whether or not you did, it's going to be your best friend in the long-range world. It's going to be a marksman and a sniper's best friend. So from that, let's move on to the definition of mils and minutes of angle. As you may recall, there are 360 degrees in a circle. That is that's obviously using a circle that's divided into 360 degree pieces. Now, as you also may recall, there are 2 pi radians in a full circle rotation. So for every 360 degrees, there's 2 pi radian. Now, the standard unit of angle measurement in scopes is the minute of angle. It's been adopted by units and forces worldwide. And as you can see here, this is a U.S. Army mil-dot scope. And it's slightly different from a USMC mil-dot scope, because the USMC uses more oval-shaped mil-dots while the Army uses dots. I prefer this type of scope, personally. But anyway, so there are 2 pi radians in a circle, and there are milliradians. All you have to do is multiply that by 1,000, because of the base unit. Milli means multiply by 1,000, as in millimeter means 1,000, or a meter divided into 1,000 pieces. Same thing, 1 radian, 1 milliradian is 1,000th of a radian. So 2 pi radians, that's 6.283. So that means there are 6,283 milliradians in a circle. Now, the other more precise unit of angle measurement that our armed forces use is the minute of angle. And that minute term is derived from our time system. As you will recall, it's a base 60 system. There are 60 seconds in a minute, there are 60 minutes in an hour, etc. So that is related to our degrees, in that it's a minute of angle as in 60. So you take 360 degrees, multiply that by 60, and you get 21,600 minutes of angle in a circle. So as I've said, there's 360 degrees in a circle, 6,283 milliradians in a circle, and 21,600 minutes of angle in a circle. As you get to more divisions in a circle, it becomes more precise. For example, the difference between how do I describe it? 1 degree is a lot bigger than the difference between 1 minute of angle, and likewise, the difference between 1 mil is a lot bigger than the difference between 1 minute of angle. So if you do the conversion, you should probably write this down, as this will help you significantly later on in your sniping and long-range endeavors. There are 3.438 minutes of angle per milliradian. So from that, let's move on to using the mil-dot scope. So as you can see here, I am zoomed in on this scope, and you see those dots, 4 dots going in each direction, up, down, left, right. 1 dot interval is equal to 1 milliradian. So that means the distance between the crosshairs to the first dot in either direction, or any direction, is 1 mil. The distance between the center of 2 dots, two adjacent dots, is 1 mil. Now a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that the distance between the edges of 2 dots is 1 mil. That's incorrect. It is the distance between the centers of the 2 dots. And the ways that these mil dots work, in the Army mil-dot scope, is that the distance between the center and the edge of the dot is 1/10 of a mil. So bear that in mind when making measurements in the future. So let's move on to range estimations. And once again, we're going to be moving back to trigonometry. And this is going to be very helpful for sniper teams who have difficulty using rangefinders in harsh weather, where a rangefinder is not, or laser rangefinder is not working. So you're having to fall back on this time-tested technique. Range estimation works by taking your target height in inches and multiplying it by 27.778 and dividing it by his height in mils, and that will give you the distance to the target in yards. Conversely, if I took his height in inches and multiplied by 25.4 and then divided by his mil read, better stated as his height in mils, and what I mean height in mils is if I had a target out there, I would put this crosshair on his foot, the base of his foot, and then I would see how tall he is in mils in my scope. So taking his height in inches, multiply by 25.4, divide by his height in mils, gives me the distance in meters. Now this is the real-life application of this technique, but conveniently in Arma, every single character model is exactly the same height, which is approximately 1.8 meters tall. And that allows us to easily make quick calculations to determine how far the person is, how far he is. Now this target I'm looking at right here is 1 meter tall, approximately. And I'm going to demonstrate this technique to you right now. As you can see, I placed the target out at 825 meters. So now let's take this, let's use this technique to determine how far it is using this range estimation. So, the target height is approximately 1.2 mils high. So using what I just said, the new equation is the simplified equation, I should say, with a person who was 1.8 meters tall. You would multiply his height in meters by 1,000, and then divide by his height in mils. And you see how it's a lot more simple using the metric system. You just multiply by 1,000 and then divide by mils. You don't have to use any of those weird conversions, where, like if you measured his height in inches. So 1 meter tall times 1,000 divided by his mil height, 1.2, gives us a distance of about 833 meters, and then 0.3 repeating. So approximately 833 meters away. And I'd say that's pretty damn close to what the actual distance is. So you can see the effectiveness of this technique when using it out in the field. I did not need to use a rangefinder. I had my scope on target the entire time, monitoring his activities and his movements. So I did not have to take my eyes off the target, which is critical in a lot of mission scenarios. So off that topic of range finding, let's move on to using rangefinders.